Peace, world. How you doing? It's your brother Mikey Fever. NYP talk shows Monday nights at 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. Don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe, follow us on social media, super chats, and peace to the family. Tonight we got a special guest, Majik Man Haru. He will be talking about the Ansura Allah community, also known as the Nuwapians. Peace, Majik. Peace, Majik Man. How you doing, brother?
Hey, doing excellent, guy. Thank you so much. And man, this has been a long time coming, man. So first of all, thank you so much for the divine blessing as well as the ancestors for making us together, okay?
That's peace. That's peace, man. So tell us, Majik Man, where you from, brother? Start with your journey, man.
Wow. First of all, being third generation on this side by way of my grandfather, okay? The first one to make it to this soil in 1909. Born and raised in the shores of America. Okay, that's on my father's side. On my mother's side, I'm Black Hawk and Cherokee mixed. Okay? So I'm what most people classify as a so-called African American, which is, of course, is a misnomer pertaining to us as a people. Okay, I was raised in North Carolina as well as New York. When school was beat out, they were shipping to New York. So 75% of my life have been living in New York. Shout out to Brooklyn, Flatbush Avenue.
Brooklyn. Flatbush building.
Yeah, East 22nd Street, Bedford and Newkirk, Flatbush South. Yeah.
I'm from out there, but that's what's up.
Yeah, man. Yeah. But you know, it's great, man, to see us finally starting to come together as a people, because we spent too much time wasting on stuff that's not even really feasible in this day and time. As you're going to hear, and you and the rest of the attendant bliss in the audience, as we continue to do this build tonight, right? We got to stop wasting precious time that we can't get back.
Of course. I'm all about that. I'm all about the progression of our people. You know what I'm saying? Accountability. Learn from our past errors and moving forward. You know, so that's what's up. So you third generation of Cherokee and Black. You said Black Hawk.
Well, third generation on my father's side, who just passed 2 years ago. Okay, but Black Hawk and Cherokee on my mother's side.
All right, all right. So that's peace. So from North Carolina and Brooklyn. Yeah, and as far as your upbringing, exposure to hip hop, you went through all that culture, all that cipher.
Oh man, bro! Before the so-called golden era, classified as 1988, and y'all correct me if not. Of course, you know we was doing that long before that, but for some reason to say 1988 is when we came to that apex or the golden era. You know, with guys such as Rakim Allah, Karis One, Lakim Shabazz. Some of my favorites, such as Poor Righteous Teachers, you know the list. Brand New, and so forth. You get what I'm saying? Matter of fact, man, I actually wrote my first, rhyme back in 1985, to be exact. So, I was up, man. I was up for some deals myself, man. But once I realized, how shady the producers and stuff was, man, crazy. Back then, they was trying to offer us a measly 1 penny for every record that was sold, which is crazy, right? So I'm glad we didn't take that deal. Man. And some of you people who's out here putting out music today, it wasn't like it was yesterday with the digital. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Well, we in there, it makes it easier, man, for people to come on, man, and do what you got, man. But we need to switch it back to more positive than some of this negative stuff that's been allowed to go over the airways.
I got you. So in your upbringing, were you, like, before we get deep into, I'm just trying to build up before we get into that, into your journey into Ansura Allah community. Was your family religious? Were you grew up in a religious household?
Yeah, I did. But I was fortunate they had a father that took me from synagogue to church to mosque. So I was already pretty much studying different types of religions as part of my upbringing. Long before I came in contact with the teachings known as the Ansura Allah community. Long before that. So it was a part of my journey. Right. But even back then, we had a strong sense of self-worth. Unlike other people, even though we would go, and my daddy and my father, shout out to them, and my mom, they always wanted me to be rooted in what everybody else was teaching throughout their community. So it was necessary for me to be taken from synagogue to church to mosque. Unfortunately, us as a people, there's many different ways of life people can study, but for some reason, when it comes to our people, those are mainly the main three that they tend to cling on to.
Yeah, like mostly mainstream, because that's what you've been conditioned and indoctrinated to follow. Psychologically, it breaks the people down, the images and such, to make you feel like you're less than. And there's other spiritual practices, African traditional practices that people tend to frown upon, like the Ifa, Voodoo, 21 Division, Palo, Mayombe, Santeria, and all that. The average person who doesn't have knowledge of that will frown upon that, look at it as some kind of pagan-like or demonic. Like,
God, what's crazy? I'm gonna show you how much time we wasted. I just left one of my many just over bros, one of my many jobs, right? And I hear a young sister, I'm not gonna call her out, right? But I just in mind thinking, right? And we on an aircraft, and because one sister of Haitian descent and another sister is from another part of one of the many different tribes in the misnomer called Africa. She looks at the Haitian sister and she says, "Don't y'all people, do that black magic?" And I'm listening, right? And she said, "Well, she was trying to explain hoodoo. Some people call it voodoo and all kind of things, right?" And I'm listening. I said, "Here we are in so-called 2025, and we still not we. Most of y'all attentive listening audience, right? You still teaching the babies that nonsense, where everything black and dark is bad, but the opposite is black is white, right? So they still, with all of this so-called knowledge, all of this so-called information age, right? You still got the youth, and I'm saying late teens, early 20s with that type of mindset. We got some serious work to do. Oh yeah, and I don't blame the babies, Almighty. I blame the parents of these babies and the grandparents of these babies.
That's the power of indoctrination. They don't, and the correct term for that sister who was asking that sister of Haitian descent is voodoo or voodoo, because I'm Haitian myself.
Oh, okay.
So we of course, even within our own community, people will frown upon voodoo and stuff because it's not part of the three main religious systems, But again, they vilify it because that's what helped us get our revolution, and also let's not forget the unity and other forces. Because without unity, nothing can be done. You can have all the knowledge of spirituality whatsoever, but without peace within yourself and unity amongst your brothers and sisters, nothing will work.
Exactly.
You can do all the invocations you want, it would not work. So you got to be yourself.
And what's the argument slap in the face? And for those who's worshiping those big three, there's spell castings all throughout the Torah, the Old Testament, New Testament, including El Quran. But they want to act like that's not in there. That's why one of the things, and you're going to see or faithfully hear, is love like a hate, as we call them, the spiritual master, because each one of them, us, I know I'm my own master. I'm not going to have another master by any other name above me. Now that's me. And again, that's what separates a real student from a mere follower. Right?
Of course.
But so love like a hate him. He did a very good job for most of us who he came to reach. And his message wasn't for everybody. That's why a lot of people went on and did all kinds of things like that. But anyway, as we go further along, we'll get back to that.
Yeah, we'll definitely we'll get into that. And I know you're referring to Malachi Z. York.
Right, right.
Also known as Government Dwight York, many other aliases. All right. So
right.
How did you get involved with the Ansaaru community? What introduced you into the Ansaaru Allah community?
First of all, my family, again, I used to live between New York and North Carolina. Shout out to a cousin of mine named Alan Felton. That's the government name. from my so-called family that took on, right? And even though he was traveling the pathway of the Nation of Gods and Earth, or the 5%ers back then, right?
The gods and
And
earth.
because we lived, and he used to go down to the Hall of Knowledge, and I used to see him bring these books back. Now, even though he was, traveling the path of 5%er, who's later on he then migrated to some form of Islam, be it Sunni or Shia now. But I credit him, and he was known at that time as Master God Allah, right? So my cousin, my family member, my relative, he was the first one that I used to see. He used to bring these books and stuff home, even though he used to do the knowledge as a 5%er. But I'm sitting back, I remember he read something from that book, from one of those Nubian Islamic publications, right? So my cousin, he probably was about 5 or 6 years older than me. But because we're double kin, we're two brothers and two sisters kind of married. Like, my father married my aunt's, which was his father's sister. So we actually are like double kin.
Got you.
But, shout out to him though, man. And his intentions was good. But he planted that seed a long time ago, because I started off reading. But I didn't fully accept or embrace the teachings of the Nation of Gods and Goddesses, to which I got my attribute in 1984.
Oh, we got to correct that. Nation God and Goddesses. We got this Nation God and Earth, respectfully, because
Yeah, I got you. But you got to remember, I'm 57 years young, right? Okay. So I'm going to call it the way that it was called back then, right? Okay. Yeah, that's the way the elder gods who gave me my God attribute back then, right? This is what it was called. Now, I'm not going to say it wasn't called other things. I'm just going to give it to you the way it was given to me. Okay.
Oh, the only reason why I interject and said that, because I have never heard that term used before. But again, like yeah, more.
But again, not to put you on the spot, Almighty. I'm 57 years young and I'm getting younger. So what's your math then? What's your math? Are you just as young or a little bit older than me?
Oh no, I'm coaching knowledge. So
all
basically,
right.
And again, I shout out to them, because I studied for a brief amount of time, and what I learned was very, very pivotal in my life, by being right and exact. You understand? And I always give them their respect.
Right.
But yeah. Okay, so you say that you started with the Nubian Islamic publications. Those are the small pamphlets. So that must have been back like in the 70s, 80s. No,
fam. To be honest, those publications, they was on a collegiate level compared to what's being out today. This I'm gonna be honest with you. This information is small compared to what he used to put out. It was on a collegiate level. Even sometimes the books appear to be thin, but bro, we was talking about scientific information. We went into DNA and blood type and tribes and all that kind of stuff, man. I'm telling you, I'm gonna be honest with you. What the term right knowledge now, or actual facts, is baby knowledge, man, compared to what he was dropping in those publications back then, fam.
All right. So you say you started. So how old were you when you say you started? You got exposed to those books, like what, early teens, 20s?
No, I was actually 9 years old at first. The first time I read the publication, remember, shout out to my cousin, my relative, Master God Allah. He used to bring those publications back home, and he used to leave. And I was always well advanced, and I was always a quick learner back then. A lot of times, one of the things that's a natural gift for me is I can learn more about watching my surroundings. And I would listen to the way other people would talk, right? And I would sit back and watch and listen. And sometimes, I wouldn't necessarily ask a question or anything like that. I would just pretty much take it in, right? If something I wanted to ask my cousin about, or something I was confused about, even though I was reading those publications, like I say, I was always pretty much advanced. So I would either ask him later on, or through some miracle, believe it or not, I will find the answer either in that book or one of the other publications that he would bring home.
Okay. Got you. That's peace right there. So when did you yourself decided to become part of the Ansaaru Allah community?
It was June 26, 1991. At that time, to be brief, is even though I was living in North Carolina, but we used to go to Norfolk, Virginia, which was about 45 miles away from where I was living at. And there used to be a festival that was called Afghan Fest. I don't know if they're still doing it or not, right? Used to be at a park. And so I remember my elder brother, whose name is L. I actually drove his car. Me and him going down. So we went down Afghan Fest. So we walked in the festival. Matter of fact, I think it was at not Tidewater Park, but anyone take time to look that up in North, right? So we went to this park, and we was buying food, man, meeting different girls and guys and stuff like that very culturally, right? People from many different tribes was a part of Afghan Fest. So I looked up and I saw some brothers that was at a table with a white jalabia on. Now I'm familiar with it again from not only the publications but living in New York. So I was like, man, I ain't seen that down here since I left New York. You get what I'm saying? So soul to soul, I found myself. I told my brother, I said, L, I gotta go over to this table here, right? Yeah. So I go over to the table, and again, here's one of the miracles where people want to bad mouth. Again, Dr. Malachi Z. York. And it just happened to me. It happened to many other people. But this is my experience of what happened. June 26, 1991. Okay. Even though I fully embraced the teachings at that time of the, like I say, Nation of Gods and Goddesses, right? The 5% Nation, from 1984 to 1991. So anyway, my soul guided me to the table. So me and this brother, and again, I'm coming from that type of knowledge I had, right? So me and him was just making eye contact. I haven't even looked down at the table yet, right? And, because I'm doing the knowledge with him and he's building with me. And he said, so you're a 5%er, huh? I said, yeah. And he said that, you ever thought about investing and getting a publication so you'll be able to know more about what you're talking about, God? I'm like, I would if one was available, but back then there wasn't these lessons and plus lessons that was compiled, pretty much compiled in one book, right? And I'm like, shit, I would, if there was such a book, yeah, of course I would. He said, well, look down then. I looked down, and the book of the 5%ers, I'm gonna see if I can pull it up. I don't know if I can show you this or not. Thanks to the digital age in which we're in, I got a digital copy of like a PDF copy of this book. And this is actually the first publication that I brought after reading, my family members' books and stuff that he would bring. If I can get it open. As soon as it open, I'll show you. Now, what's so crazy about it is when I looked down, and he told me back then, I remember, he said, I tell you what, he said, I'll sell you 1 for 15 if you get 2 for 25. One of the greatest errors that I ever did in my life is I brought 1 instead of 2. Because when I took the book, took my shahada the same night, right? Took my shahada the same night. And the more I studied the book, because at first, I didn't take it as something that I wanted to embrace myself, right? One of the elder gods I used to build with, man, you know what he did in my book? Right. He took and ripped the book in half.
Oh.
He ripped I don't know what it was, but the gods back then, man, used to hate, as he was known back then, Imam Isa. And was the only reason why, to keep it respectful, because I don't know if you got children, but bruh, it took a lot. It took a lot for me to walk away, because he almost caught a bad one. Out of the love and respect I had for him, because he was one of the ones that not only embraced me, but he was there for me. Matter of fact, he wasn't the one that gave me my God attribute, but he was close. He was like his right-hand man compared to, Father Allah in justice. He was like justice. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but I think the light.
I think is it that book, Questions to Ask the 5% or something like that?
Yeah. God, that nature. Yeah, it's the, hold on a minute, see if I can go. Yeah, that is. That's the way it looked.
Okay.
And that same guy, right, that I had the utmost respect for, man, when he took and ripped my book up in half, man, I looked at him. I said, you know, you don't know how bad I want to lay into you right now, man. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk away. But not only am I going to walk away, but I'm done with that, because what you did is unforgivable.
Did he tell you why he tore the book up?
Yeah, he told me, man, because that time he was like, Imam Isa is don't know what he's talking about and all this kind of stuff, man. But again, even right here to the day, man, you got a lot of people that hate this man, loved by many, but also hated by just as many.
You know, in life, it's something called it's polarities. You know, everyone's experience is different. You know,
right. I experienced that myself.
Yeah, before we even
can
go
I
into that,
share something, God? Can I share something as we continue to go on, man? I want to share something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm known as Tune, right? That's my tribal name.
Mm-hmm.
My penny stage name is Master, Time Magic Man Heru, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I was doing my best 8 years ago, and shout out to WNT9 radio, because I was introducing sound therapy to try to offer it as a form of healing for our people. Mm-hmm. Because with all of the knowledge and stuff that we had, we still continue to be divided. Some people still hurt by things of the past during the Ansaaru Allah community era, all the way up to right knowledge to when things hit the fan on May 8, 2002. Mm-hmm. So sound therapy, right, which you're known by as the master sound therapist, is try to use that as a form of healing by using sound and really sound judgment, right, as a form to heal ourselves and each other, even though it went over a lot of people's head at the time, right? But I'm kind of questioning now, man, what did our people want, man? I think our people love to continue to be, not all, I'm not saying all, but a mass majority of us will spend, again, like you said earlier, a lot of time we can't get back. I'm saying this for a reason, because the night before my interview, I had a so-called, they weren't called Sabians at the time, it was called Nuwapians at the time. Had a dude come up in my inbox. It's because there's different stages that we go through, from the God stage to the master stage to the elder stage, right? And this dude actually inboxed me. I'm gonna show you how silly the nation, how far people have fell. This dude inboxed me. He said, "Hey, you call yourself at that time master, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah. I mean, what's the reason?" You know, he said, "Well, how dare you call yourself a master?" And I'm listening, right? I'm listening to him. And I say, "And if I continue to call myself a master, what's supposed to happen?" He said, "Well, you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised on how many people is going to be upset by that." I'm like who? Do you know who they had the audacity to say that would get mad at me for calling myself a master? Take a guess. I ain't gonna give you 3. Who do you think?
I don't know.
This dude actually said Dr. Malachi Z York would be mad at me for calling myself a master.
But how we
even know? And I'm like, and I'm listening now, because I can't speak about other people's experience, but me taking time to speak to him and get to know him like you and I get to know each other, I know that what he said is an outright lie. Never had a problem whatsoever, and never will have a problem whatsoever about us growing into what we're supposed to grow into.
Understood. So, you know, I hear what you're saying 100%, and there's something that's something for, you know, our people. Basically, like, there's a lot of work that has to be done. It's the healing and getting proper education and learning to dialogue and debate with not being disrespectful. But but to go back on track, you said you started with the Ansur Allah community. You took your shahada that night, right? And you took your shahada like at the Hall of Knowledge. Here
During that
or
time, okay, we went to, at that time, there was a Ansar Allah community that was in Newport News, Virginia, which wasn't too far from where we were in Norfolk, probably about a good maybe, 20, 25 minutes, depending on traffic.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a community, an Ansar Allah community back then. And this is when the nation was making a transition from the going through that phase, because it was only a school for us.
Yeah.
That's a key point right there. Most of the stuff that we ever went through was only a form of school for us. And I emphasize only.
Yeah.
And because we left that, from 1970 to 73, depends on who you ask, right? For 20 years. So the time can go from either 1970 to 1990 or all the way up to 1973 to 2003. It's when we start to go into the next phase of the Holy Tabernacle Ministries, right? Then that's when he came out with the Right Knowledge pamphlets, the little small pamphlets, and it actually was like the middle stage to where we ended up going to, as far as the AO type of scrolls and all that kind of stuff.
Because you know what, growing up in Brooklyn, I remember seeing dudes on the streets selling the pamphlets and oils.
Yeah, with the jelly beers and all, and the sisters in the field, right?
Yeah, in the pictures and all that. And I used to see the pictures because I'm not gonna lie, I used to see the books. They were kind of like comic books at one point. I see the drawing and the feeling.
Right.
And then there was a dude I remember who had he was next to a video store and he had the books, and I was looking at them, and after a while I tried to understand it, and I was like, I couldn't really get into it. I was like, it's not really, not everything's meant for everyone. Like, it's not really a thing. You know what I'm saying? So I fell back from that, and then it's a whole other slew of things. But I remember that point. At one point when York did have an influence on hip hop artists and the culture, and him challenging people and about religion and such, and it was pretty deep. So you say you went to that hole of knowledge in Virginia. Did you ever, come in contact with Dr. York when you were a member of the Ansar Allah?
Not at the time. We didn't physically come in contact with each other to 1995. Even though, like I said, I took my Shahada that self-same night on June 26, 1991. Okay. And I continued to study the doctrine. I continued to not only go there, but I continued my natural pathway, because I was about ready to go to college to get my first degree, a bachelor's degree in religious studies.
Oh, all right.
Because again, this is a part of things. Again, not because I need it. I was raised religiously. Okay. But because some people, and this is for the life of me, you got some of our people want to get the documentation, of course, by one of their masters in one of their schools that they control, right, with European thought, right? So this is what they wanted. And some of my elders was telling me to say, as divinely gifted and thorough as you are, some people won't listen to you unless you produce one of those documentations to have graduated from one of their so-called colleges. And I did it for that purpose and that purpose only. Because I'm here to tell you, even though I went through those schools, right? In order for to get the degree, I had to answer the question, like most of us, knowing I know better. But I did that because, this is something that, people who's close to me, such as Nuwapian, which is my godfather, I did it for them. I didn't do that for me personally. But because I was fortunate enough and it was a part of my upbringing that I give thanks to that.
I got you. So that's dope. So you went, and you mentioned like the changes of school of thoughts, because I know from what I pulled up, he started with the pure Sufi thing. Honestly, Dr. York started he's pure Sufi because he was a student of Sheikh Dawood, as he said, right? His history, Sheikh Dawood. From there, he started the pure Sufi thing, and then from there was the Nubian Hebrew, Islamic school, and the other stuff came about, the holy tablets. Then, you know what I'm saying? When he went, out of space somewhere after, and I was like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? So
They say went out of space, huh?
yeah. When, you know, all that. Oh, peace have been. Yeah, he went to outer space. So I said, so you experienced all that. You went through. Did you go through all those school of thoughts yourself?
Yeah, but far as I stand, correct throughout the doctrine before 1970, we always spoke about being before the sun or before the so-called beginning, the way that was taught. So it was always there. Yeah. This is not something that he started teaching later on. It was always there. Matter of fact, if you ever get, have access to, and I can show you, that a lot of the earlier pamphlets, even though you saw him with the Islamic regalia, right? With the show with the staff and all of that, right? If you look closely at some of the posters, you will always see one of either, what most people refer to as a ship that was either beaming down towards them, right? Or you will see it somewhere. So it was always there. Now, again, let me add this too, because I give thanks for my own personal experience. Yeah. So I have seen many things that most people on Earth can't explain. There's nothing on Earth that can travel faster than what the speed or what they pertain or what they're calling the speed of light. I'm talking about comet-like type of speed, right? I have seen that all throughout my life, personally. And I don't know how long this interview is going to go, but trust me, some of us was there. Some of us was there on our land, especially in 1997. Remember the first Mike Tyson fight? Remember that? The Mike Tyson, not Buster Douglas, but the first Mike Tyson Evander Holyfield fight. You remember that fight? The very first one.
Yeah, I remember that fight. Okay.
Yeah. So we was on our land of Tama-Re at the time, and it was actually showing that fight. It wasn't Haswell Studios, but the Ramesses nightclub, right? That was dubbed as a movie theater, right?
So you live in the land.
I didn't live in it, but I had access to. Oh, okay. Because at that time, as a business owner, back then, I became one of the ones that used to distribute the books. That was one of my earliest books. But I had access to be able to go back and forth, and I used to be able to pick up. I miss those days, man. I used to be able to pick up the phone, and we used to have what they call COD, called cash on delivery. I would tell, the office, say, send me so and so, and it will be there in a matter of 3 days.
All right, I got you. All right. So continue about that comment. What happened?
Yeah. But okay, that night of the fight, it was, man, this was during the Savior's weekend, as we used to say, birthday celebration. And so many of us, and I'm talking about, it had to be at least 5,000 or 6,000 of us just out in line, and we just as family, because it was always about family with us, man. In regards to whatever tribe or wherever we came from on this planet, we used to gather, and it was all about love and family there. So in the midst, because all of us couldn't fit inside of the club that was dubbed as a movie center, but it was actually showing and broadcasting the fight live. So we was actually getting what was happening in the fight by hearsay. So, and I still remember a sister right here to this day, man. We all outside under the canopy, man. The skies used to be lit up, right? And one of the sisters say, "Wait a minute, that ain't a star." Me, like the rest of us, I'm talking about thousands of us. We all looked up, and what appeared to be amongst the stars, man, just took off with tremendous speed. Right? Now, I'm gonna show you again. To me, is nothing less of a miracle, because one of the books, and it might be out of print now, but you might be able to find a copy in PDF, called Mystery Clouds out of UFO. But this was at nighttime. In the inky blackness of the night with all these so-called stars, right? Just took off, and it was just going from one side of the sky to the other, right? And it seemed like, now get this now, we're standing there on Earth. As it was traveling, the sister was talking, say, evidently it must be sensing that it's being detected, right? And me, and like many other people, is looking at her. They started coming from all over the place. I'm talking about 8 or 9 was just coming from the bottom up, and would disappear. Another would come from the left side and like disappear. And this carried on, man, for about a good maybe 5 or 10 minutes. They were just all over the place, man. I'm talking about with a comet-like type of speed, right? So as soon as she said that, she said, yeah, they must be sensing that we're watching this whole, it's like a almost like a laser-like show. Like it's as if someone took a blanket, picture in your mind that someone took like a curtain or something from one side of the sky and just snatched it and went all the way to the other side, like I just did my hand, where you couldn't see nothing. It was just completely black. You couldn't see no stars or anything.
So it sounds like
we all just looking at each other.
Like comets. So as I seen that, like in the country roads, when you go out in the country, when it's like no city lights, you see activity as such. So so that was during 97 years on the land. So throughout the land, I know there were different other school of thoughts where they had the whole Yamasee process. So when he became, what was it, Chief Blackfoot, something like that, Thunderbird, something.
Chief like Thunderbird, Black Eagle.
All right.
You got to remember, these are just attributes, man. The same thing that in the Islamic culture would call an imam. The same thing, even though when I went through the school of Judaism, right? Like some people back then, I was known as Rabboni, right? Which is nothing but a master teacher, right? So this is just different stages that people would apply to him, and apply not just to him, but many of us that actually have that, that knowledge of leadership and divinely gifted like that. So also it's been on record. It's also been on record, man, that he's just as much Native American as he is of Sudanese heritage. Because his mother is Native American.
I hear that. Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of discrepancies. I hear that. That's what you're saying, but there's a lot of discrepancies, in regards to his origin, being born in Boston, Massachusetts. You understand, and all this extra stuff from Boston, and not actually the whole Sudanese thing, and what else? Being a diplomat, but that's like down the line stuff later down the line too. But so you say you was on the land. You started your publication working with Dr. York. I mean, selling the books on the land and stuff, becoming a business owner. Were there any, like, how should I say, going through the ranks of becoming a teacher yourself in that organization?
Part of my calling, part of my lifestyle. Okay. Some of us, and I'm going to take it back to the Ansaaru Allah community, some of us was meant to be raised outside of the so-called gates of that type of confinement that was in Bushwick, Brooklyn, so on and so forth, right? Some of the best of so-called students was raised outside of that environment. And I'm saying it this way for a reason, right? So it wasn't part of my destiny to be amongst the rankings as most people was trying to fight. And that's what caused a lot of discrepancies, is because I was only there to get the knowledge, not only to validate what was happening in my own personal life. Unlike, I want to say, probably 85 to 95% of the people who ever studied the doctrine. Okay? Because most of them, even if they don't like to say it, they became dependent on either what they either read in the book or for someone else. And that's pretty much the classic story of so many people in our world. And I go so far as to say 99.99.99% of the people have yet to have their own personal experience dealing with the divine. Right? So that's what made me different. So again, to answer your question, I didn't have no desire, because I was there for one purpose or one reason only, for me to finally see him, because of the divine love and respect I have for him and appreciation, to not only give me concrete proof of certain things that I pretty much was being raised in and studied for all of this time. So I traveled in 1995. To finally see him in person.
Got you. And where you're like, with the books that he has penned, what they say, close to 300 something 300 or 400 books or something like that. So they say he was able to pen
Mm-hmm.
multiple genre, subjects, like from religious context, spirituality, and extraterrestrial. But as far as his books, right? Which book was the main one that made the shift for you outside of the 5% one? Which one really said, you know what, I'm gonna really dedicate myself to the following of Malachi?
Far as me, again, that spark for me is when I fully comprehended what he was getting at when I got that book to the 5%. And I have yet to read any of the books from the little small scrolls. And again, I'm talking about the doctrine books, again, that was on a collegiate level. Things like, you know, have you been born again? We had all kind of things, man, that he would read, that he would put out there. So to me, I have yet to read any book that he had put out that I had access to that didn't reach me in a different type of way. And to me, he's divinely gifted in his way of being able to convey and to be able to, for us to be able to see it ourselves, which is one of the best kept secrets.
Really?
Yeah, one of the best kept secrets. And also, I haven't seen any other teacher or leader before his time or during his time, and even right here now, right, that open up to the point where anyone can come off the street and ask their questions. Because most people come pre-scripted, right? Most of the, so-called rabbis and kohens and preachers and reverends and imams and sheikhs and all this kind of stuff like that, I can't think of any other one, whether it's in America or throughout the rest of the world, where they're allowed to do that. Anyone, whether you're a student or what, you can come right on off the street. If you got something you're confused about, you can go right up to the mic. That's the way it used to be, right? And ask any question that you wanted to without being told that you're a demon or you're a blasphemer and some of the other catch stuff people tend to say, because either they didn't know the answers themselves. So that's what created a lot of contention, with other people in different communities.
All right. So from there, you said, the book inspired you, things that you have learned from Dr. York. Did you what did he teach you himself, like through conversation with him? Did you ever challenge his information? Like, say, point me to your point of reference. Where'd you get that from? How did you get that information? Like, what made you produce these writings?
What's so unique about it is even going back to when I got the 5% book, right? The books is constructed and it's designed to give you certain reference books. Matter of fact, if you open up the beginning of it, two of the things that he used to reference, and I still remember right here to this day, he said, and this is within the book, that 5% book, right? He said, I suggest that you purchase Supreme Wisdom 1 and 2 by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, right? He was always respectful for other people that was on the scene or during that time or before him, all throughout his books. So there was always reference materials. And unfortunately, over here in America, most of the people wasn't taught to read, write, and chant Arabic and Hebrew and all the different things that we was encouraged to learn. But again, I'm an exception to the rule because by me being raised in it, right, I was already had a strong sense of different words and how things would change and what appeared to be different, but actually it wasn't different at all. The script might have changed, right? But there were certain root meanings, whether it was in Arabic or Hebrew, that there was really, really no difference. But this is something that we're able to see our own selves if we choose to see it.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, like, because I'm gonna be just asking questions. So, what is a Nuwapian or Nuwaubian? Because I hear different stories. Because going from a different school of thoughts, and he did this and that, and the Holy Tabernacle was it ministries?
Yeah.
What made people come to that conclusion of being a Nuwapian or Nuwapian, and now they call themselves what, sabers or whatever, Sabians.
Sabians, yeah.
Yeah. So can you describe what's a Nuwapian? Break it down to us.
I
What is
can't
that?
speak on, what a Sabian is. There's other brothers out here that still follow that particular pathway. For me, and I explain that either now or later, that to me, that was a stopping point for me. When things hit the fan, when the land was raided and taken, and through infiltration through our organization, like many other ones, right?
Mhm.
That I was already leery about where the nation was going to go, right? After the government stepped in, took our land and the family and all that kind of stuff like that got dispersed.
Yeah, so you stop right there. All right.
Okay. So now, far as go back to your original question on what is Nuwapian, to put it in simple terms, based on the language, Nuwab, whether it's noon, wa, ba, right, is nothing but dealing with information. And what's so unique about it, when you speak about a Nabi or any of these things pertaining to, be it in Shemitic languages, that's speaking about a prophet, right?
Mm-hmm.
That these are the people that brought information to our world as we know it.
Got you.
So that for simpler terms, a Nuwapian is really people that have a vast amount of information. This is something we have and who and what we are by nature, right? It don't have anything really to do religiously, even though you can find connotations within that word, be it throughout the scriptures.
I got you. So it's just basically redefining self into your own terms, coming sovereignty of self. That's what
Yeah,
it's.
that's a good way to look at it. But far as what people can actually, like you say, do research on it. If they
Mhm.
look up the word prophet, then they will see those letters, like I just said, noon, wah, bah, or sometimes you don't see a wah. Sometimes you say noon and bah, right? But like I say, once you study, you'll be able to have that strong sense. So not only do they apply to a so-called prophet of the scriptures, right? This
Mhm.
also applies to the information that people can receive in the form of a book or in the form of knowledge itself.
So okay.
Mhm.
Because they say knowledge, is the
It's
respect
power.
and
It's
no
power.
surroundings. So when you say the land was taken,
Mhm.
raided by FBI and such, there are many that are listening and observing that are familiar with the case of Dr. York and other things. You understand?
Mhm.
What have transpired that led to that point? Because we spoke about the books, your experience, and it's beautiful. Like I could tell from what I'm hearing, you're a person that like to seek knowledge and go out there and acquire information. You
Mhm.
understand? And that's why I asked if you ever challenge him on his doctrine and what he spoke. Like from different
But from
multiple.
day one, let me be clear about something.
Mhm.
I didn't just get that book. Actually, it took me about a good year back in 1991. It took about a year for me to read the book over and over. And I'm looking at El Quran and I'm looking at the Torah. And meanwhile, I'm sharpening and even learning Arabic and Hebrew and Greek and all that kind of stuff, all doing this year. Some I was familiar with, but I'm going to be honest with you. Through poor translations and sometimes being born and raised over here in America, I would hear certain things, right, that sound familiar to my ear, but to be able to, most people, so-called Americans, Muslims, they
Mhm.
would give you the English interpretation of what they're actually saying.
Got you.
But
So
what's so unique again I feel like it's something that I even do within my teachings now is to be able to teach in ways where people can actually learn and not really know that they're actually learning at the same time.
okay.
Okay.
So we would like I was saying, and that's dope that you went to go study different language because language
Mhm.
is the key.
It's key. It's key. Yeah.
Um, say to like those who challenge his teachings and his writings, because we know from what the public says, from what we know, there were many people that were helping him write his books. Like how they say some people divinely prepared a book, like he was gathering information down to the point
Mhm.
they say certain things would change around, even plagiarized. Right? We hear that, right? And let me continue, and
Okay.
down to the books, and then you mentioned some people could have challenged him and stuff in the past, debating whatsoever. I know him and Chuck, was it Chuck Phillips had something? Bilal Phillips.
Oh, you talking about old Chucky Ducky? Yeah, I
Yeah,
got you.
Bilal Phillips and him had something going back and forth because about the
Mm-hmm.
Ansar Allah cult, and he said about the difference between that and Orthodox Islam. So it's like, there was some people trying to challenge him because I have never heard of a case with Dr. York actually debating anybody. You know what I'm saying? I just heard like he put out tapes whatsoever, or a pamphlet, but like to like a public forum to debate back and forth. Were there any things like that ever took place?
People had opportunity the whole time, even from the Ansar Allah all the way to when things hit the fan. People
Mm-hmm.
had more than enough opportunities to come. And I have seen personally on the land where many people have tried, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about conversations not just in English, the way that you and I are speaking now, right? So-called American English.
Mm-hmm.
And debate with so-called Arabs that's coming over here in America, right? A whole conversation in Arabic, right? So my main thing is everybody had that opportunity. But what's so unique is if people do their own self-study
Mm-hmm.
in regards to whatever he put out in the form of a pamphlet or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and I definitely got to take time to address that. You say plagiarize. That's one of the biggest lies and one of the biggest stones that many people cast because they can't explain how was it possible for even back then, long before the internet,
Mm-hmm.
that he was putting information out, long before DNA and all of this stuff that we started finding out about the Limba tribe, the true Kohen priest and the so-called bloodline of the original people, right? We
Mm-hmm.
read that in one of the many different pamphlets that he put out. One of them was called Who's Who on Planet Earth. Another one was called Belial, the Scepter Bearer, where he spoke about the ancient Yahudahites that migrated from what most people know as Jerusalem, took root south or went south, downward, and took root upward to land in Ethiopia. How is it
Okay.
possible for him to put all of that information long before the so-called internet, where you got these Google gangsters and stuff out there? I challenge you and anyone else who claim that he
No, listen.
plagiarized. So
You
this
say
is the
challenge.
hear me out, hear me out, hear me out.
Okay.
Who plagiarized what he wrote or was divinely inspired within the
Mhm.
Holy Tablet to produce a copy of it.
Of
Many
course.
people say it, God, but no one is able to produce what he gave to us all within the confines of the Holy Tablet.
I say this because I say this because there were many authors back then, like the Zechariah Stitchin, and this is like information that's out there people can look up.
Mm-hmm.
With Chuck Morgan pointing to reference books that he say he copied from, and the fact that he had people in there helping him write the books that will go to the
Mm-hmm.
library, pick up information. It's not only Chuck
Mm-hmm.
Morgan, it's Bobby Hemmett and many others.
Mm-hmm.
And
Who also used to go to the land.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to when you say the raid, you get what I'm saying? Because what works for you may not work for others. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
So I want to know what led to the raid of 2008. I mean 2002, May 8th of 2002, where everything collapsed.
Well, there's a lot of information out there, but from a sister who was there while it was being raided. There was accusations that was going against him that
Mm-hmm.
caused that. And most of the people, right, that pretty much planted the seeds for our land to be raided and taken away was no longer in the nation. They had went on about their life. But it was only there to cause a disruption anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to speak on behalf of me taking time to get to know him personally
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not speaking from a hearsay, she say point of view. I'm speaking from someone who took time to get to know him. So I'm speaking on the character of the person I got to know personally.
Yeah.
that I would sit and talk with him throughout my travels. We would
Yeah.
meet and greet each other. So on more than just a mere student type of teacher thing. But when you take time to spend time with a person, get to know the person, like many people who took the time to get to know me, that also can vouch for my character. And the same way that people can vouch for my character, I can vouch for his character, that he's not the type of person that would do what he has been accused of.
No, I understand what you're saying. And
Mm-hmm.
I heard the story, disgruntled members whatsoever, but there are many
Mm-hmm.
things out there, you know what I'm saying? And to me, I'm coming straight down the middle, unbiased by what I see is the okay. You say you knew him, he didn't do those things, but any man in his right mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if I'm on with my code D whatsoever, as he put it, the women were his co-defendants whatsoever. And they try to say that he was coerced or forced to take the plead agreement. I'm not letting nobody put no egregious charge like that if it's real or not on me and plead guilty in court. You understand? That's the part that got me, because I'm like, the way this man speaks on tape, proud, strong, fierce. And I'm like, for a charge like that to come and you say that they made you say plead guilty, I'm not doing that. Especially
All right. Hold up, though. Let me ask you something. Hold up before you go there. Right. Are you married?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, according to what was presented to us, that his wife was in need of certain things that she wasn't getting. Right. So he did that at the time because whoever was handling the case at the time, they wasn't duly prepared to be able to do that. Plus, his wife was going through a challenge, right?
Yeah.
So in order for, and this is where these devils will come at you. You haven't been faced with that yet, sir.
And I
You
wouldn't be put in that position either.
You won't know till you put in that position, sir.
No,
Right?
listen,
You won't know that.
Let me tell you, brother. Even if somebody did try to put me in that position on my life for my 41 years on this earth, I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. I'm not sitting with nothing like that, especially if I know I'm innocent. I'd rather die first. As he claimed to have those years of knowledge, there's no way I'm gonna back down and let no freaking system put no case like that on me, bro.
But again, that's you and your experience. You won't be able to know that until you're faced with that type
That
of
won't happen.
That fighting situation.
Like that.
Okay. But I'm not neither here or there, but to answer your question as pertaining to that, that's the way it was. He did that in order to save his wife's life, given that situation. Right. And sometimes, like with me, taking it off of him, I speak on me. Okay. There was a situation where I had to plead guilty for something. I'm not going to mention now. Definitely don't have nothing to deal with children or anything like that. None of that silliness. First of all, I'm a father, right? I'm a father with my own children, right?
Yeah.
And again, the many times of getting to know him and his character, to have my children around him, right? And again, I can vouch for his character, not based on what somebody said he said, and all of this other nonsense that most people like to gravitate to, because people's mind, all they want to hear about something's filthy and dirty and what somebody else is doing, right? So that's besides the point. But my main thing is, for whatever reason that he did that, because sometimes you have to make certain choices for you to be able to fight. And at that time, when things first hit the fan, people wasn't really put in place to be able to fight all of these accusations. And just like right now, I'm speaking on behalf of his character, right? You don't find too many people that would speak on behalf of his character. Like with me now, I don't know how many people watching when it's live or when it's archived, right? Yeah. But I'm gonna show you how sick the minds is that many of our people are. You take somebody like Chucky Ducky that can say all kind of degrading things, and he can get 1,099,999 million people to watch and listen to that nonsense. But because I come forth again, not as a so-called follower, but a student, I come forth as a person to say that I love and respect him, as much as my father. I never needed him to be my father because I had my own.
Okay.
Right? So I come from that standpoint. But you got many people that so-called disgruntled don't even know their own father. Father wouldn't even claim them. You understand? So you're dealing with people that already had certain issues in their own life. One of the things that you wrote in the header, and I appreciate you doing that, was a question. Did people misunderstood the Ansur Allah movement? I want to take time to answer that question, if you don't mind. It was very, very misunderstood because it was a chance, again, because all an Ansar really is an Ada. It don't have anything to do with Islam, even though that word
is attached.
You can find it within El Quran, right? Even though that's mistranslated as a helper, right? Many people wasn't there for that purpose. They wasn't there to be healed, even though they had all of that opportunity, right? Some people didn't even have food, clothes, water, and shelter. They never experienced that before. And 24-hour security. They never experienced that before, right? So they had all of that opportunity of learning not only to sacrifice and have to go in business for yourself. For many brothers that used to peddle, that was, again, to me, I like to call it the Miyagi method. Not only are you out there peddling, learning how to sell, right? For some people who quit their 9-to-5 jobs or whatever, they were actually learning how to work for themselves, but didn't have to work for anyone else, right? These are the things, some of the things that most people won't even hear about, that I'm sharing with you and the rest of the world.
No, and let me make this clear. All that I'm saying, not no personal attack on you as an individual. So let's get that straight. I don't take it that way at all. I just want them to hear, just like you say you experience good things, your experience may be great. I can't speak for your experience. I can't speak for the victim's experience. That's their experience. It's just like, I always use this analogy. We could be looking at the same picture, but we have different perspective, different experience. So we don't know. You understand what I'm saying? My thing is this, as you said, for us to move forward as a people, is that we learn from these mistakes and move forward. You know what I'm saying? These things were done, they done, but our people just need to move forward and learn. Terrible, whatever may have happened. But you know what I'm saying? There was a point at one time, his information was good for many. It worked for many. So I'm gonna keep it real like that. You get what I'm saying? So to each their own. And I know we about the hour mark. I'd like to have you come back on the show so we could go more in depth, because we got another show set up behind this one.
Okay. All right.
You appreciate it, Majik. And again, making this clear, it's nothing personal against you. I want the listeners and viewers to know we're not here. Just brothers just going back and forth, and there was no disrespect. But I appreciate you for coming on the show. You got to come back, and we'll have more dialogue when Brother Ron's on here. All right,
sound good. Appreciate it, fam. Thank you so much.
Likewise.
All right. Peace.